Welcome to our webinar on managing crews in real time and how Replicon's advanced solution helps doing this for your business. I'm Ashni, the webinar specialist with Replicon, and I'm joined by Pawan, who is our solutions evangelist. Right. So here's a quick view of what the agenda for today looks like. We will get started with the challenges around managing your deskless or remote workforce, and we'll follow it up with a detailed demo by Pawan on how Replicon's advanced capabilities like crew timesheets or geofencing or pre-built payrolls or right to disconnect or project costing and others can actually help you simplify the entire process of remote workforce management. I also wanted to congratulate each one of you as you all are eligible to win a $25 Amazon gift card from Replicon. All you have to do is just tweet at Replicon the biggest challenge you have faced while managing a remote workforce. You have until the end of this week, so send out your tweets before we randomly select two winners from the respondents. Okay, and before I get started, here are some housekeeping items. You will be on mute during the presentation and there will be a Q&A session at the end of today's webinar. But if you have any questions at any point of time during the webinar, please feel free to submit them in the questions box and we'll make sure they're answered in time. All right, then let's get started. So we at Replicon believe that people's time is an asset. You will actually be surprised that it costs 60% of the operating expenditure for any business. And that is the reason why actually we call it or we manage it like an asset. We have seen that a typical 1,000 people business has around 2 million hours, but all of these hours are without a centralized visibility or control over all. Now, when we looked deeper into it, we realized that this was all because of their current ecosystem, which was actually fragmented and was very tedious. Their time was spread across a payroll system, it was spread across an HCM or ERP or CRM ticketing system or other such solutions, and they actually literally had no way to get a complete view of this data. I would say if we had looked closely, all this employee time data gets tied into different metrics across the organization. And if you do this without a system of record for time, you actually fail to get the insight that is required. And if I talk about the insight, that insight actually directly affects the parameters that business leaders need in order to take decisions, which is around people, around cost, jobs, compliance, pay, or profit. So Replicon's time intelligence platform, it will actually provide all the businesses with a single source of truth that they need for their time data. It not only helps you tackle time tracking requirement, but it is also super configurable to meet all the business needs. Replicon actually scales seamlessly from small to large organizations. We support global needs, and the best of all is that we are mobile first. We were actually built with the changing nature of workforce in mind. Replicon, I can say, is also built on the latest and the greatest technology to help your business manage time in the most efficient manner. And actually, let me just put a cherry on top of the cake. You can easily connect your platform with ours and any ecosystem that you're using today. We have an open API. We connect with all your ecosystems easily. All this to get your time, cost, your pay data, and even your billing data in one consolidated place. We have a comprehensive suite actually. You can see it on your screens that we can help you manage not just your time, but also your projects, your compliance needs, your people management requirements. In fact, everything to get you that profitability that you're looking for. And thanks to this suite, Replicon supports all the use cases and it helps the businesses manage time just as an asset as it should be. But today, I think we'll be, if I can say that we'll dive into how we help deskless worker management, which directly ties to your job cost and gross pay. Okay. As a business that has field-based employees, you must have faced one or all of these challenges that you're seeing on your screen right now. all these challenges to manage these out of sight workers or crews as we call them. We have seen these issues with managing people's availability. We have seen issues with tracking their jobs and costs. We've actually seen issues with calculating the compliance pay or billing. And finally, sort out concerns around the productivity in total. So, to support these management needs, Replicon has capabilities around crew management and geofencing that vastly improves how businesses manage crew time and remote workers. We also help you cope up with the right to disconnect functionality so that your employees receive notifications only during the work hours and they are not disturbed during their time offs or the hours that they are not working in. Right, before I hand over the things to Pavan, I wanted to show you our latest capabilities around crew timesheets. And that, as you can see on your screen, with the crew timesheets, we enable mass entry and edits for all the crew managers. Plus, we will also be showcasing today our geo-tracking and geo-fencing features that we believe is basically a key to managing your remote employees in real time. So in short, the demo that Pawan is going to be showing up now will show you how Replicon collects time, how it validates it, and how it helps it get allocated so that you can share it with any of your payroll or costing system if need be. All right, with that, let me hand things over to Pawan to show you the capabilities in a quick demo that we just spoke about. Right, Pawan, it's all yours.
Thank you, Ashni. And just if you can confirm that you're able to see my screen and hear me well.
I am. Thanks, Pawan.
Wonderful. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. So as Ashni has set the stage for us, today's webinar will be focused on geofencing, crew timesheet, and of course, deskless workforce. Replicon provides a complete solution around pay, profits, billable, shared services, data extraction, with a platform that is scalable, most importantly, multilingual, AI-enabled, of course, wrapped around a compliance library and then compliance as a service, to name a few. So what I'm going to begin with is by showing the time intelligence components that Replicon has to offer. This is how we really focus on our solution, sort of to address your business requirements and how the solution can be very nimble across different business verticals that we operate in. So we'll start talking with places. We've got places set up, built within the system. Here's essentially where you would set up the geofencing. So it's as simple as you go ahead and add a place. You can give it a name with a description, of course. You would then set a range. And then, of course, using Google Maps, search for the location itself, you can define your parameter over here. Now, once this place is created, of course, you would click on Save down at the bottom over here. Once this is created and saved within the system, it is then assigned to your workforce. Right? And then, of course, you can track whether the users are actually clocking in within that specified location or they're clocking out of it. We've also got validation rules to make those checks for us, which is essentially the punch validation rules. So we can be looking at punch validation on work location as an example. We can give you warnings, we can give you error messages, which clearly show up within the user interface for the end user, and of course for the supervisors. So that's kind of triggered, and we'll showcase that in just a moment as well. One other thing that I did want to talk about was pay rules, as Ashni has mentioned. So the pay rules library that we maintain within Replicon clearly is from a compliance standpoint. We've got pay rules built into the system for a lot of countries and a lot of states. If I want to pick up United Kingdom as an example, so I would just type that in, and that's the pay rule that we've built in. So clearly, those are the parameters, those are the rules that we've set up. Against these rules, time is distributed against relevant pay codes. In very simple English, we've also given a description of what the pay rule actually includes. Business users can also modify these pay rules if required per your business requirements. In this case, clearly, the pay rule is maintained by Replicon to help you stay compliant. Again, from a legislation standpoint. One other thing that we do want to talk about, which Ashni did emphasize on, was the fact that we've got the right to disconnect built into the system. So if I go into users as an example and I pick up a random user against the user's profile, if I go into notification, just bring that up over here. So in notifications, if I'm looking at, let's say, work days and time off, I can actually limit notifications to coming into me only during my working hours. Right, so we keep it very specific to that effect, and it's not going to be coming in anytime or just limiting to work days. It can also be down to the actual work hours itself of the users. So now let's switch in and see on how these things are actually tied in and what they look like within the system itself. We'll switch in as one of the supervisors, typically to see how punches are actually captured within the system and what it actually looks like on within the UI itself, or perhaps if it's the mobile workforce, how would it look like on a mobile app? So that's my screen coming up right there. And of course, I'll just go ahead and mirror the same on my mobile device, which in this case is an iPad. So essentially, with crew in the field, you can have users clocking in, clocking out. Their time punches are captured automatically, which is of course visible over here. As a supervisor, you clearly will have visibility on your employee status. You get to see how many employees were scheduled, how many are currently working, how many did not work, if anyone's missing any punch, and clearly if anyone is violating or has any violations triggered. Those are actually visible over here. You can actually click on it and you can see more details with regards to it. What else do we get to see on this screen? In addition to just these time punches, you can get a lot more detail, and that is simply by clicking on the Detail tab. Now, within the Detail tab over here, I can clearly see as a supervisor my users, what time they came in, which location they have clocked in, which device they've used. So you could be clocking in using your own mobile devices. We've got the native app support on Android and on iOS platforms. So users could be using their own smartphones. They could be using Replicon's proprietary Cloud Clock application on an iPad and clocking in. So that's clearly visible right there. They could be clocking in against different work breakdown structures, activities, projects. That is clearly indicated over here. We can also give you more details with regards to the images or the thumbnail images of the actual users who've clocked in and out. And of course, if I go into the map view, which is the most interesting part over here, I can clearly see where users are clocking in, if there are any violations, if they're outside of the geofence. So let's say this was a geofence that we've set up, and if I have users clocking just outside of the geofence, that is clearly triggered along with the exclamation mark, highlighting what's happening over here and drawing my attention as such to this in this case. The same view, as mentioned, is also available on the mobile app. So that's the Replicon's mobile app. That's the main home screen of a supervisor. Clearly, I've got an inbox right on top showing me action items. I've got timesheets waiting for approval and time off requests and so on. But as such, within the punch timesheet status over here on this window, I can clearly see how many users are in, how many are not in, how many are on a break. This becomes very important on an instance. Let's say there's a construction site, there's an emergency. As a field supervisor, I really need to see how many folks are in on the site and if I need to action and evacuate the place. This, of course, comes in and becomes very important for me. Of course, if I click on the map itself, it will then give me all of the punches. I can see punches with regards to all the punches of all the users or just the latest punches. If the users have clocked in outside of the geofence, that's clearly indicated over here. So that's some visibility that I've got. Just bring this in the middle of the screen. Now, as I scroll down, I've got visibility into my crew timesheet, right? So let's talk about the crew timesheet itself. It's the same visibility that we've got on the web and on the mobile device. Now, on my mobile device, again, I can clearly see if users have clocked in as indicated against the validation rules. This punch is outside the assigned work location. So I actually get to see that in real time if users are clocking in and out, outside of the geofence that's set up. Additionally, I can of course see all of the users' punches right there. It's the same visibility that I've got over here on this screen. I can have users clocking in, clocking out. They can these entries essentially can be pre-populated simply based on the users' schedules that they're being assigned to work on. So in the event, as an example, if I've got users doing any extra time or overtime, and I kind of want to highlight that, that is clearly possible. So in this case, I've got users like Yan and Jason and John working 8 hours each of those days with the half an hour break that they're entitled for. Now, in an instance where, let's say, one of the users has left early or is on a break or is on a time off, and someone else is compensating time on that case, clearly there's the element of overtime that would kick in, which of course increases your costs. Let's see how that actually looks like in a real scenario. So let's say this is my crew timesheet on the mobile device. I've got Jan working up until 4:30, and for some reason, today he's going to be doing overtime. For me to capture his overtime would be as simple as I click on add the in and out screen. I go in over here. I can clearly indicate that he's actually worked from 4:30 onwards until, let's say, for the next 2 hours, perhaps until 6:30, he's put in 30 minutes extra time on this particular day. So that's the in time. The out time, as indicated, it could be against a certain work breakdown structure. In this case, let's say he was working on a demolition job. And then, of course, I can give in some comments right there. But once this additional time has been entered against the user's profile like this, the system just takes a moment to kind of calculate on the back end, and I can actually get to see the violation message popping up like we can see right now over here. So as you can see, the total hours for the day should not exceed the employee's daily schedule of those 8.5 hours. So clearly, I know that we're incurring overtime on this case. If I take a step back over here, I can also see on the main screen, one employee is on overtime. So this is a supervisor's real-time visibility on the crew, what work they're doing, and if at all you're going to be incurring overtime, which of course would add to additional costs, that's clearly highlighted within the system, all of it in real time. So I can actually click on that particular entity. It does show me this was the user Yan, who's actually going to be putting in or who has put in that element of overtime for that particular day. Right? So that's within the mobile interface, and as indicated, it's also visible within the web instance, and data is synchronized in real time, as you've seen. This was a punch that was captured on the iPad. If someone's remotely sitting in an office and monitoring the same thing on their computer, they can actually see this happening in real time. Right. So this is, of course, talking about the crew timesheet. Now, what we've covered thus far is, of course, places, geofencing, validations triggered, time tied against pay rules, and then, of course, the time being captured itself. What happens with all of this? This actually then moves in to where you would extract this data for payroll processing, as an example. And the way a payroll manager would actually have visibility to this data is really from within the payroll workbench or the payroll side of things within Replicon. The view and access, again, is very aggressively controlled in Replicon, depending on the user and the permissions that they have. So if I were to switch into the system as a payroll manager, in this instance, I'm now looking at it as the user Chris. I've got visibility on all of my users' timesheets. I can see their statuses. I can see if their pay calculations were up to date or not. And of course, if I scroll to the right, I can clearly see some information with regards to time against the different pay codes distributed by the pay rules within the system itself. So I can see how much of regular time is going in, how much of overtime. It does give me a summary down at the bottom as well. When it comes down to extracting this data for payroll processing, a payroll manager would typically go into the payroll workbench. Here's where you can actually go ahead and apply these filters to actually extract data. So you could be doing a pay run for a certain period against data that is part of a certain pay run status. It could be data that's not included in a previous pay run, could be in a draft, could be completed. You're looking at timesheets that are approved, not approved, or waiting for approval. You're perhaps doing a pay run for users within a certain department, or even perhaps against a certain employee type. Could be contractors, could be full-timers, could be those different types of employees that you've got, and of course against different locations. So as an example, being a multilingual, a multi-currency, and a global platform, of course I can see all of the different currencies, and I can see users across the globe in this case. But let's just say I want to filter this down to users within a specific region. And let's say I just want to pick up users from within UK. As soon as I throw in a filter and I hit refresh, it's going to specifically show me only the data that I'm after, which in this case, of course, was my crew that I was capturing time against, all of their hours, if there was any overtime, which is already showing up over here. And of course, this is data that I can then go ahead and download as a CSV file. I can, of course, create a pay run with this data, which then becomes a draft pay run. Which I can then, of course, extract in the different file formats that we support within Replicon. So that's with regards to the data that we're looking at. One key thing that I do want to highlight is the fact that we can very seamlessly manage delta values or essentially any prior period adjustments. So it's clearly a fact that if I were to go ahead and create a pay run of this data, which I would just do by clicking on create a pay run, that's me having created a pay run, gives me an auto increment number, which I can then add an actual name against. It does tell me the status of this data, which is in a draft status, tells me the date range. I can add a description and of course my filter settings. So back into the payroll workbench, if I were to go in and if I were to look at only unique values coming in at any point in time, if I say none and if I were to hit refresh data, this then actually highlights only the delta values that will come in after I've done a pay run or I've created a draft for my pay run. So before your final cutoff date is when you can actually then use your delta values along with the data that's part of the draft for your final pay run. Or, of course, delta values could be used in your subsequent pay runs. Right? So this is data that then is fed into your payroll system for payroll processing. That's the payroll side of things. I do also want to talk about projects and project costing as an example. Ashni did highlight the fact where we can connect with external systems as an example. So you may have existing ERP systems, CRM systems, you may have your project master data within that system. Replicon can seamlessly integrate with such systems. We can clearly go ahead and mirror everything that you've got in your master data within Replicon as is. And of course, with all the data that's being captured, we can clearly highlight, being the time harvesting platform, we can highlight time values, we can indicate your cost, and of course, your billing data within the system. And this is, of course, the view of a project manager within Replicon. So that's all I really had to cover for today's session. Ashni, I'm going to turn this back to you, and I'd like to thank everyone once again.
Thanks, Pawan. Let me go ahead and quickly share my screen here back again. All right. So just to summarize what Pawan showed us today, Replicon can help businesses transform for good. We actually have not just seen an immense decrease in job costing errors or labor costs for some businesses, but we've also seen great reduction in compliance risk. There has been an increased employee engagement and a very effective unified view for the in-office and field-based workers. I can actually say what's a webinar without an actual example. So we wanted to quickly share a customer example of a large energy company that we have. They had a huge field-based workforce, and when they came to us, they had this manual process around tracking crew time, which was causing them costing and compliance issues. And with Replicon, they were able to leverage our platform capabilities and manage the crew time with cost allocations. We were also able to codify the union rules for gross pay calculations, and that actually gave them a simplified reporting process for the entire audit that they could do. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's. Right. Okay, so if you want to learn more about our platform capabilities, you can actually email me. My email address is right there on your screen right now, or you can call us on our direct line. We'll also send you the recording of this webinar so you have it handy with you. And you can attend our other webinars by registering with us through our upcoming webinar page. So we keep updating that regularly. You can go ahead and tag us along and get to be a part of our webinars. Also, a quick reminder, tweet your biggest challenge that we have going on. So tweet whatever your biggest challenge is around managing a field-based workforce at Replicon and enter a chance to win an Amazon gift card. You have until Friday, like we said. Okay, so with that, thank you everyone for being a part of today's webinar, and you have a great weekend ahead. Thank you. Bye-bye.